What's up, y'all? It's your favorite coach's kid, Sydney Wright. I'm here joined by my co-host, Joey Wright, aka my dad, aka NBA draftee, NBL Coach of the Year 3 times, professional basketball coach with over 20 years of experience, my biggest critic, my biggest supporter, and also my best friend. Now, he is joining us from Shoot HQ Notting Hill's official podcast room. So if you are in the Melbourne area, you're looking for somewhere to age some shots up, get a workout in, or maybe record your podcast, hit up Shoot HQ Notting Hill. Now, this week we are talking about a topic that hits very close to home for me, close for you as well, Dad. But we are talking about working with women in sports.
Yes. It's with having two sports daughters, it's something that I had to learn. It's not something that was just naturally part of my game. I had a lot of great female players that were friends of mine growing up, especially going to the University of Texas. Krista Davis was one of the best players in the world for a couple of years, and she was one of my best friends, and I trained with her quite a bit. Vicky Hall, who was another standout player at the University of Texas, was a good friend of mine, and I got a chance to spend a lot of time with her and see her career and development. So, I've been exposed to some greatest female basketball players in the world, but I never had to coach them. They were my friends. So, um, coaching it, I had to learn on the fly.
On the fly. Emphasis on the fly, because
Yes.
it was not perfect, not even close in the early days. Let me say that.
Well,
I I
you had
felt like from the ages of like 10 to probably 16, working with you, I had felt like I was speaking a different language and you were speaking a different language. I felt like misunderstood. Felt like I probably felt like I knew a lot more than what I honestly did. And I also felt like you probably knew a lot less than what you actually did, which was,
well,
which
the
was on me.
the thing for me was learning to deal, um, I guess, with the confidence level. I didn't know how much emotion played into um, the female side of the game. I thought we were going there to knock heads off. I think we're going there to dominate. We're not going there to be social at any point in time, which is, how I was introduced to the game.
Mhm.
So I was just, kind of giving you that same marching orders, with your personality being completely different than mine, and also a contrast to that whole mentality.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a balance there because the girls that I know that dominate this game and
Mm.
really good at it, they're not overly concerned about what other people feel. They're
Right.
they're out there getting it in. So I do think I was right, but I wasn't right for everyone, and I
Mm.
need to learn to adjust
Mm.
to the girls that were not or did not have that mentality.
Right. Yeah, which makes sense. And there's a few other things that play part, other variables that play into that as well. The social aspect was huge. And then you add the layer of I'm a young girl versus when you were being taught, totally different. Uh, but you're right. I do think the best female players do have an edge to them where they're not concerned about what other people think. They're not as concerned about hurting people's feelings. They're able to be the odd one out. Ultimately, that does separate them. I don't think that's in every single case, but I do think most of the greats on the female side that we see in all sports, not even just sports, in any walk of life,
That's true.
they they are quote unquote different to your average woman. Um, I think it's been really, really cool for me to see that being celebrated. Um, when I was younger, shoot, 6, 7 years ago, like, that was frowned upon. A woman going to the gym every day and doing this and doing that, that was frowned upon. A woman trying to make the WNBA instead of raising a family, that was frowned upon. A woman who wanted to be a CEO of her company, she was asking for too much. Like, now we're kind of turning a page in society where women being successful and women being leaders and women being quote unquote aggressive is powerful rather than looked at for the negative stigmas. So it has been really, really cool for me to be a part of this term in society.
Well, hey, I was trying to preach it from birth. You remember our saying, let me go ahead and say it for the people.
Rough and tough, don't
Don't
take
take
no
no
stuff.
stuff. Don't need a man to complete a plan. That's
That
oh,
yes,
uh,
yes.
so
Yes.
I was throwing that in there at a
Mhm.
very young age. Rough and tough. Don't take no stuff. Don't need a man to complete a plan. So you finally, evolved into that mindset. It took a while.
Took a while.
But yeah, I'll probably push it on you probably sooner than you wanted it, and maybe even sooner than you needed it. Because at the end of the day, you have that mentality now. You're assertive. You're a leader. You've been a captain on most of the teams you played on, a co-captain. Um, so you got there. And I just think it's all time. It's all learning. You know, I probably wanted to accelerate that quicker than needed, but eventually you got there. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. Was there ever a time when you were working with a female athlete, myself, Taryn, or any of the other strong female athletes that you've coached? Was there ever a moment that you can remember that changed your entire perspective on working with women?
I don't think it came. Perspective did change, but I don't think it came from working with you guys. It
Mm,
came from just being immersed more in female basketball in all
mm,
areas.
mhm,
And I did notice that I was training female players to do non-athletic things. It
mm,
was all just skill based.
mm,
Um, and at a certain point, I realized that no, I need to train them in athletic situations and put them in the same athletic situations. Obviously, we're not trying to catch, alley-oop dunks in female basketball, but, we do need to have some aerial stuff going on where you're learning to play off the floor and in the air. And so
mhm,
my training has evolved from the initial time of working with you and some of the other female players to what I'm doing now. Like when I initial, probably the first great female player I worked with was Christy Wallace,
mhm.
and she operated on the same plane as all the boys in the gym.
Right.
So she taught me some lessons just by watching her and how she went about it.
Yeah, yeah. And And what do you think? Because you touched on it, mentioning Christy, working with boys. Now, most strong female athletes at some point, whether they start at a younger age or develop into it, but they end up working with guys. I remember most college teams, all of our practice players were guys, and they weren't super skilled, but they were guys. They were faster than us. They were stronger than us, and we competed against them every single day.
2 sides of that, though. There's 2 sides of that. I think every great female player I ever known played against
Mm,
guys, but you have to be careful of not playing the same female player, not resorting back to being passive against
right.
girls. So I have seen that as well, where I see girls come out and get with it with guys, like kick their butt,
Mm,
go at them, scratch, bite, hit, do whatever they
mhm,
gotta do. But then when they go against to play against females, they don't give that same type of effort because for whatever reason, trying to get them to like them, I don't wanna hurt them, or whatever it may be, I'm not sure
yeah.
the mentality. But I have had to warn certain female players that I've trained, "Hey, you play against those girls like you willing to play against the guys. If you're gonna cross somebody over and hit a step back three and give them some noise. Hey, do the same when you're playing against girls as well. Don't do it just
Yeah.
against boys.
Why do you think that is though? Like why because I've been in that exact situation. I've obviously struggled with confidence and, wanting to people please in my own teams, playing with girls. But on the flip, like we'll go work out with guys and I'm talking the most shit. um, but
I
wouldn't
mean,
dare say that to my teammate. Uh,
well, I think you just nailed it. You just said it, the people
yeah.
please part. In that instance, you care one more about the girls
And
liking you because you're gonna be around them and do social things with them. The boys, you're probably gonna, hop in your car, they're gonna hop in their car, and y'all ain't gonna see each other again until the next day you're
mhm,
at the gym. That's one side of it, but I also think the other side of it is you and I might get some trouble here. Boys are just a little bit forgetful. Like we can go at each other heads up, butt heads, scrap, get into it, and
mhm.
we're good. Like we're fine the next day. Girls do the same thing, and y'all don't talk to each other for 27 years. So yeah,
Hey,
sometimes you're afraid that you may lose that friendship if you go at somebody. But man, the people I respected the most are the people I
yeah,
scrapped with the most. If I respect you, we
yeah.
scrapped.
Yeah, and that is true to some extent. I definitely have some teammates and where we could be like that. I cuss them out, they cuss me out, we talk shit, um, and we'd be mad at each other during practice, and then we'd dab each other up and be cool. Hey, girl, let's go get some food. Like, I've definitely had that. Definitely also had the alternative where I yell at someone in practice, they hate me. They still hate me to this day.
Forever.
I think it's tough. It's a blessing and a curse. It's the relationships and the friendships and the, trust and loyalty that you do get on a women's team is unheard of. Like I think
Yes.
that is next level. And you keep that with you for the rest of your life, right? Like those friendships stay forever. Those bonds you create stay forever. But, you know, it was like you said at the same time, sports is aggressive, sports is physical, sports is talking mess, sports is going head to head, trying to outwork somebody, trying to outcompete somebody. And, with that comes emotion. So it is a
Yeah.
fine line, but I think there's good and bad on both sides. What's a mistake that you think your average coach makes when trying to quote unquote be nicer when coaching women? I think that's something that I've heard a lot.
Well, I don't, I don't ever believe in letting emotion control our coaching. I think we have to, and that's not to say I haven't done it. I've done it a lot. Um, but as an overall, the biggest decisions I had to make in the game, I didn't make with emotion. I let the game of basketball
Mhm,
decide that, and what I've learned from basketball to decide that. So in that instance, I would just say let basketball dictate how you um, treat anybody, any basketball player. If it's time to run, let's run, whether you're male or female. I do think trying to look at it in different ways and going, okay, I'm coaching females, let me do this is a
mhm,
mistake. No, I'm going here to coach somebody who wants to be inspired, somebody who wants to get better, somebody who wants to play together, somebody who wants to communicate, regardless of what sex they are. So I think you're setting yourself up for failure right away if you try to say, let me do this differently because I'm coaching a female.
and I agree with you in the instance of, like, one-on-one individual training. I really don't think it should be too much difference. But what about from a team aspect? You were coaching a women's team, which we joke about a lot because I think you would probably be, like, one of the worst.
I know that you probably can't put girls in repeated confrontational situations. And I haven't coached a team full of pros
Right.
before. So that's something, a team full of female pros before may operate
Yeah.
totally different. I work in juniors, and just the pros. I have worked with pros, but just on an
Mhm.
individual basis. And I treat them like,
Yeah.
um, just like a player. But it may be a difference on that level, but I think you can't put them in as many confrontational situations, as you would one-on-one confrontational
Mhm.
situations. I think most of the confrontation may have to be spread out a little bit, so not one person's targeted and seen as the bad person or an idiot or whatever. But I say this all the time: the best player on most teams aren't liked by most players, and that best player is okay with that. They don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it. On a female team, I think that's
Mm.
even bigger. I think the best player on most female teams, most of the team
Yeah.
don't like him. Uh, and I think, and same, that player could care less about your problem that you have about me
Mhm.
being good. They're going to continue to be good. But I do think maybe a little less confrontational situations, and it needs to be spread out. Direction has to be spread out a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question for you. You've had both male and female coaches. And as a female player, have you felt it was any difference that you saw, um, being coached by a male versus a female?
Yeah. The male coaches that I've had have been more emotional than the female coaches I have had. And what I mean by that is the male coaches respond to our emotions terribly. Like they spiral. Obviously, like you got a group full of women, 10 to 12 to 15 women. It's gonna be some different emotions. Some people gonna be up here, some people gonna be down here for different reasons. The male coaches struggle to control that. And as a result of that, their reaction is like over the top. Um, Alternatively, I think like the female coaches that I've had have been a little bit more understanding of that and therefore know how to work with it. And then you don't get this big reaction.
Sorry to cut you off, but we just went through a great scenario, in which you presented to me without going in detail, uh, how your, um, current female coach handled the situation
Yeah.
beautifully that I would have just lost my mind. No, so that's probably a good example as well. Is just I sometimes, well, when I was coaching you in under 18s, and one of the female girls had a monthly issue, and she went
It's
to the
not an issue.
bathroom, and four four girls
Yeah.
followed. I could just I was ready to burn the gym down. I was like, why does it take five
To go to
people
the
to
bathroom.
deal with
Yeah.
that issue? That's the craziest thing I
Yeah.
ever heard. So, like, we only had
Yeah.
8 players. We had 5 on the bathroom, and I was daring you to leave. I was gonna tackle you if you left. So, uh, that I definitely see, myself, in what you're saying. So, maybe we are a bit more emotional than and the women are, able to handle that emotion.
I the word and I think this is not just in sports, but in life in general, like people forget that men are emotional too. The emotions just come out in a different way. And so like whilst women get the label of being super emotional and this and that, like women are emotional, but instead of punching a wall, they'll probably just cry. Whereas like a man now he's into it with his teammate. Now he's face to face with his coach. Now he's, on the sideline saying this, that, and the third. Those are all still emotions. They're just being displayed in a completely different way. Um, I think the frustrating thing as a female athlete is like our emotions are looked at as a negative. Whereas like when a man or a male athlete is emotional in those ways, it's usually celebrated or, oh yeah, he's passionate or he's
That's true.
strong or he cares about his team or he's a leader. And if if we were to lash out in that way, they would say we cannot control our emotions. Um, and so, as a female athlete, that's frustrating because, again, we're all competing at a high level. We all put a lot of time into this. We all make sacrifices. And with that comes emotion. Like, there should be emotions in sports.
It
Um,
should be. I've seen a lot more men crash out than I have women,
100%.
though. Definitely. You know, I was around Jody Conrad, is one of the best female coaches and one of the most wins in college basketball history for females, one of the top. And I could not ever remember her
Yeah.
crashing out. She was always calculated, chilled, um, and just, smooth. I look at Dawn Staley. Dawn gets fired up. She's my favorite
Mhm.
coach, period. Male or
Yeah.
female. And hey, Dawn gets after
She gets fired
Dawn.
up.
She,
She gets
yes.
fired up. But I think, like, again, and this makes a great coach, like, she knows her team. She knows who she recruited. She knows how her players respond to that. She knows that when she's fired up, they're also fired up. They lock in. It works for them. Um, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with getting there at all. I just think you have to know who you're working with as a coach. I think over time, you and I have definitely it's
Yeah.
improved tremendous. um, from now, like, actually enjoying our workouts and just having fun.
I always was having fun.
I
That was
was
you
not
that was
having
stressed
fun.
out. That was on you, bro. I was
I
having
was
a great
stressed.
time. I was in the gym with my daughter. I was having a great time. That was on you.
Yeah,
All
I
on you.
was stressed. I was doing backflips in my head. Um, what are some tips that you could give a dad or mom, any parent that is working with their daughter in particular at a younger age?
I would just say a little bit more, and I wish I'd have done this with you too. Little less identification of exactly what's wrong and a little bit more support in just the
Mm,
effort. Because I'm so pragmatic and so detailed when it comes to basketball, it's really hard for me to
mm,
sugarcoat anything. It's really hard for me to not talk about exactly what I just saw. Doesn't make me right, but it's hard for me to sugarcoat it or talk about it in a different way other than what I think I
mhm,
saw. And so I wish I'd have given you and Taryn a little bit more grace as I do now and just say, hey, good job. You know, I always said good job for you being out there. I love to see you compete, but I want to see progress every
mhm,
game. And that's probably not realistic for anybody. What we worked on the week before is not going to be implemented or being used for at least 6 months, but I wanted it, sooner than later. And so I would say have a little bit more patience, and just, more
yeah,
grace.
which it's funny you say that because, like, that's the advice that you give me now for myself. Almost any conversation that we have kind of results back to that same advice, and I'll be frustrated about something, and you'll say, "Okay, well, just one, give it some time. Like, just be patient. Give yourself some grace. Like, you're being a little bit too hard on yourself." Um, I don't know if that's from how we were brought up. It could be. It could also just be my innate mindset. But yeah, I think that's important, with girls in particular, is we are naturally people pleasers. So, at the end of the game, seeing your parents, you want them to be proud of you, you want them to be happy, you want them to feel like you did a good job. And so if the first thing that they hear is, "Oh, well, you should have done XYZ," or "Why didn't you do blah blah blah," that feeling of failure stays until you get it right, until you hear, "Oh, good job, you were great."
And I think even with me, with you guys, it wasn't that I wasn't, I was always happy and
Mhm,
proud, but learning to say that same thing but in a different way is what I think, I have evolved to
Mhm.
now versus, being direct. Everyone has a truth, but you got to learn to trail your truth with compassion and not always
Mhm.
passion. And as a younger coach and a player, most of my stuff was told through my passion. And, now I have be able to communicate the same message with a lot more compassion, but that's just with growth. And that's, part of maturing
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, that's true. That's real. For me, one thing that I think that I noticed, I don't really know when you made this adjustment, definitely as of the last, like, 2.5 years, 3 years. uh, I feel like you listen to me. For a long time growing up, I that was, like, the first thing that would come to my mind is like, "Oh, he's not listening." And now, like, you'll just ask me a question or you'll just sit back and, like, let me talk, and then give your advice. Um, I don't know if that's conscious. I don't know if you did that consciously. I'm not sure. So
It wasn't because I didn't want to hear you. It wasn't because I didn't think what you had to say was important, but my passion to try to fix it um, right away probably diminished your ability to communicate
yeah,
with me. So uh, I ain't no handbook for this stuff. You the first daughter I had to play
yeah,
basketball. You're the first child of mine that had basketball. The other two was smarter. Two your older brother
it
and
was
sister was smart
smart.
enough to stay
It was
away.
smart. It was smart.
They was smart enough to stay away. So you were the first child that I had, that played basketball, and it definitely wasn't me living through you. I had by the time you came up and played, I'd
Yeah.
had my feel of who I was, and I'm 1000% content with my basketball career and all that. So it wasn't that, and it is that with some dads and
Mhm.
their kids. It definitely wasn't that. It was just me wanting you to have what you want, what you said
Yeah.
you wanted, but a bit
Yeah.
prematurely.
And me too. Like I was very emotional. Um, but I knew I wanted to play and I always felt like my emotions didn't match up with what my mind wanted to do. I would always say, "No, I want to play and I want to go to school. I want to get a scholarship. I want to play professionally." But I was feeling so, so bad. Like I would feel so sad. And I remember you would always say, like, well, if it makes you this sad, then you should probably just quit. And like that would like send me over the edge. I would be like, "What? I can't quit. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean I should quit?" But again,
But and that's a good example of me now being able to articulate that same thing differently instead of saying, "Hey, if you gonna let this thing bother you like this, and just quit. Basketball
yeah.
ain't for you." Because I knew the certain amount of failure you had to have
Mhm.
at basketball, whereas now I could say to you, "Hey, it's a level of failure you're gonna need to
Mhm.
achieve before you can achieve the success that you
Mhm.
want to achieve." Most people don't want to reach that level
Mhm.
of failure. I think we both understand
Yeah.
that now. I think you understand that now. I understand how to articulate that as I just did a little bit better than what I
Yeah.
did before.
Yeah. Well, we're here now. We're figuring it out. We're better. That's all that matters.
We're better. That's all it's about. You know me. I don't try to live no perfect life. I just try to live my
Mhm.
best life. So, you know, I screwed up. I did some things wrong. I got four beautiful, wonderful, wonderful kids. So if I screwed up, I screwed up the right way. Um, but it ain't no perfect way of raising y'all. Yeah, it ain't no perfect way. And adding basketball into it, just another gas
Yeah.
on the fire. So
All right. Well, on that note, we want to officially conclude the first season of the Coach's Kid podcast. These first 10 episodes have been amazing.
Huge success. I just can't say enough about the people. Thank you guys. Huge
Yeah.
success.
Yes, this
Appreciate
has
it.
been a great journey for us. The journey is not over. We will be coming back with season 2 of the Coach's Kid podcast. It's already in the works. We've got some big, exciting things planned for y'all. Um, keep commenting, keep sharing, keep listening. We love interacting, and I know both of us, we hear feedback from the podcast every week. Every week I meet a new person that's like, oh, I listened to your podcast, I learned something new, blah, blah, blah. If we can help one person, that's more than enough. So thank y'all. And we will see y'all next season.
We're back next year with new producers. We got someone who wants to pick up our little show and produce it. So come back next year. You should guys see a lot more than me looking crazy behind the mic.
We'll be better. We'll be better. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.
Deuces.